Hey everybody, welcome to Etrailer.com. I'm Bobby, and today we're taking a look at the Glacier cable snow tire chains here on our 2020 Jeep Gladiator. So if you guys are looking for just a decent amount of a little bit of traction control, whether we're impacting ourselves with a little bit of ice or snow, these guys can be a pretty decent choice. Now, they're not going to be your most aggressive option. Of course, we do have steel rollers here today, and what that does for us is actually gives us a bit of a smoother ride, right? So these steel rollers are kind of going with the flow, going to be rolling themselves as we are getting through, but still doing a halfway decent job of actually getting through that snow and ice for ourselves. Now, if you're comparing this to more of your traditional style chain, obviously not going to be as aggressive, and especially if you guys are finding yourself in a little bit heavier snow and ice kind of environments, I would recommend actually looking at some real chains and even up into like a twisted link. Now, of course, you can always look into those V-bar links if you guys are impacting with a lot of heavy duty ice and snow, but hopefully you guys are kind of looking at this because you are in more that medium to light duty aspect and just want to make sure that it's staying legal with your vehicle, or secondly, just having something that can get you through that little bit of snow and ice that we might be impacting. So taking a look at here, we are going to have a low grade carbon steel on there. What basically all that means for us, these guys are going to be breaking down just a little bit as they go down the road. That's kind of what they're designed to do, gives a little bit more friction for themselves. Now to that end, they're not going to be as resistant to corrosion as you might see on some of your higher end alloys. So going to be very important to actually spritz this down, get all that chemicals, all that salt off of here as much as we can. One thing I do like about it, you know, the chains themselves are a little bit easier to maintain. There's not gonna be kind of kinks that we're gonna be binding up on. We do have these little plastic rubber pieces here, or I'm sorry, just plastic pieces that prevent us from actually damaging our sidewall too much. To that end though, the install for this guy can be a little aggravating. It's not my favorite. You really kind of have to really kind of work it and pull it through. We're about to break that install down just here in a little bit for you guys. And to that end too, we might need to end up picking ourselves up some rubber tensioners as you're seeing here today. These guys are sold separately. You can see it's doing a good job of taking out that last little bit of slack that we're gonna have here. And that's something that I think you're always gonna have with this style of chain, just because of how this function works here of actually getting it tight to your wheel. You're gonna wanna need those rubber tensioners. So, you know, it does already have kind of an extra piece that you have to kind of complete the puzzle with, but I digress. Couple things we do need to get out of the way though. Predominantly, a lot of us are gonna have an all-wheel drive train here for our, a four-wheel drive package here with your Gladiator. To that end, I would probably recommend just throwing on, if you're getting a single pair chain on the front of your vehicle. That is because as you start coming to a stop, that momentum and that weight of your vehicles is going to carry forward. So if you're looking for safety, that's one thing I would recommend. Now we do have it here on the rear one, just to give you guys a good example of how to actually get it on your vehicle. But it's always going to be safer rather than, it's always better to be safer rather than sorry, right? If you really want to, go ahead and grab yourself a pair of two chains. That way, two pairs of chains. That way you can get one on each side of your tires, and that makes for the best traction control that we're actually looking for. So let's go ahead and actually get in the install and see how we can get this on here, huh? To begin our installation, what we want to do is just take our chain and lay it out just like so. Now with these cable chains, what's pretty nice is usually you don't have any kind of bends or kinks that are going to be holding it up. The biggest thing that happens, sometimes your ends here will kind of get looped underneath one of your cables. Just kind of walk it out. What's nice about these guys, again, usually going to give you no headaches. The big thing to look out for is going to be which side we actually need facing us. So here you can see we have our hard points of contact where our chain has been folded over onto itself facing up. And that's because I'm actually going to be setting this on top of our wheel. And therefore, we don't want that making contact, as that can start kind of degrading your tire, and overall that could be no good, because we definitely don't want any kind of penetration or poppage going on. And now all I need to do is simply grab this from the middle and start setting it here on my tire. So again, just walking it up, trying to be even. And now we need to actually get on the inside of our vehicle or on the other side of our tire and make our first connection. And to do that, we simply just take our end here and our bracket. We're gonna have a more open hole where we wanna run that down and try to cinch these up a decent amount. Now what I'm looking for in this position as I have that set, how is it sitting here on the rear of my wheel? Looks like it's looking pretty good. I do have quite a bit of extra chain here, so let's make sure we take that plastic cap or that little latch, and we just want to set it in there, and that way we can get all that extra stopping from popping all around. Now it may take us a couple tries to actually get the correct length of that back connection, just because it is going to be impacting us up here in the front. Now today we are just going to try it here. I have my back position set about halfway, and now we're just going to try to get this guy in place. To do that, we simply take our extra hooks here, set it in place on our latch system, trying to pull it through as much as we can. Maybe one more, and then we actually end up taking our lever back here. So I'm going to check that connection. I am seeing it's quite loose, so let me see if I can't get just a few more here. And again, this can just take you a few trials and errors of getting that necessary length for your back connection and your front connection. Always helpful to do these a couple of times. That way, you're sure at the necessary length for each one of your connections, making that much easier when we actually need our chains. Still seeing these being a little loose here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to shorten up both this connection here in the front and possibly the one in the back, see if we can't get it a little tighter. So messing around a little bit, I finally found the correct length that I needed both on my inside and my outside. It can be nice to kind of mark your chain as well. That way, next time you go to add your blocks on, you can have a good idea of it. Of course, you can always just count how many blocks you have extra. But once we actually found that right measurement for ourselves, we just need to simply pull that down. Now our little plastic bit here can be a little in the way, so simply move that and try to get this chain inserted on our holder. So I'm having a little bit of trouble just with the angle here that my cam lever is approaching. So to that end, I might widen out my little hook here just enough, but I don't want to impact it to where it's going to be coming undone. So maybe see if I can't manipulate it in. It can be helpful to put a little counter pressure on here. Basically, what can end up happening, that cable's gonna reach an angle, making it harder for it to actually fit in that hole. But all we need to do, bend out our cable enough to where it's a little bit more horizontal to fit it on our cam lever. One last step that I would highly recommend is grabbing yourself some rubber tensioners. Now we have some available here at Etrailer.com. And all we need to do to get them set in is simply take our hooks, make sure they're pointed away from our tire. And then, much like a lug nut, except with one extra strap, we're going to be running these guys around, trying to be even as we take it across here as well. So I'm just going to lay these guys out. See my other side here. Now I'm also going to try to avoid putting a direct connection right here on this assembly. Not that you can't, I just am not very comfortable with it. Don't really like how that can end up looking. So then I'm just going to go across here, trying to make it as even as I can, and simply slotting these around. And you can see that that's going to be pulling everything kind of towards the center here. And that's starting to look pretty good. Alrighty, well, it's doing a great job of taking that little bit of extra slack. Now, one thing I did like is I shortened that up. You can see we have almost no separation here on our chains towards our tire. That way, we're getting a nice secure fit, and we're ready to rock and roll. Well, as you guys saw, that install can definitely take just a little bit of finagling. And like we said, kind of during that, give yourself a little bit of time to get used to these chains. I think the biggest thing for a lot of people is finding that right measurement on either side of how much we have to cinch it up. But otherwise, once you get a pretty good idea of how it works, I don't think it'll take us too long to actually get on our vehicle. Now, again, is this going to be the easiest thing to do on the side of the road somewhere? No, not really. They're definitely not my favorite. Now, we do have a variety of different chains available here at Etrailer.com. But like I said, if you just want something for your light duty action, making sure that you're legal and just giving you enough to make sure that you get home safe, well, these could be a great chain for you. But again, if you start experiencing a little bit more heavier snowfall out there, I highly recommend at least looking at some standard chains and even well up into that twisted link style. Now, you also do have this decent little bag that comes with it. Now, personally, I don't think you guys are going to like this. I had a little difficulty actually getting the chains out of here. They just feel a little small for the chains we're getting, so hopefully I have a decent time actually getting them back in. And to that end, they are probably just going to rip apart pretty quickly for you. It's just a little light canvas. Going to be a little bit more better to find yourself a small little tote. That way you can keep it with your Gladiator at all times. Really easy just to throw in the bed of your truck, and that way you always have them. Otherwise though, guys, I think that about does it for our look here today at the Glacier Cable Snow Tire Chains here on our 2020 Jeep Gladiator. I'm Bobby. Thank you for watching.